it is such good news that God is sovereign and we're not. And I was like,
that's good.
Dang. That is such good news.
Should we talk the rest of the
That's such good news. And that just stuck with me.
That's good. I think we're British now.
Hear him out. I barely know him.
Hello, and welcome to the Hear Him Out podcast, a weekly conversation with my friends and I about how God speaks to us and asks us to hear Him out. Today, I am joined by two of my friends, Kayla and Kayla.
Hey.
And Jesus. They waved, but you can see if you're not watching on YouTube. Oh, and Jesus is here too. We have him back from last episode as well. Hopefully that episode gets posted because I'm having difficulties right now transferring it from my one phone to my laptop. So we'll see if that ever gets posted. But anyway, so Kaylee has been on before briefly. We had an Izzy's Insights episode about dating and relationships. It was spiritual leadership.
It was the first Izzy's Insights.
It was the first Izzy's Insights, and it was on spiritual leadership, and that's what it was on. And we had I was like over at your apartment, and maybe I came over early for something. We were gonna go see The Chosen. That's when we went to go see The Chosen, right?
Oh, nice.
And you came to that too, right? Yeah, you both were there. Yeah, we went to go see the first 3 episodes of Chosen season 4 in theaters. And I went over to your apartment and I was like, "Can we record an episode?" Because I think we had been texting about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Wait, hold on. Why don't we just record a quick episode about this? A quick little Izzy's Insights, which that was where it was born." And then you were on. So Kayla, I met both of you through the porch, technically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember,
we met in, September or October, because it was right after lunch, because I was in Brittany and Carly's group.
Because you were going to come to Broken Bow.
Yes.
But then you didn't.
I know.
Okay, so you got added to the group. That's how you got added to the group chat, though. Because we originally were going to go to, so my friend group from launch was originally going to go to Broken Bow, Oklahoma, on a little trip. And Brittany had invited you and your cousin Reagan. Yeah. And so you guys got added to the group chat, and then we kind of just turned that group chat into a massive group chat with people not going to Broken Bow too. And so that is how we met. Yes. Yep. Yeah. And then Kaylee, do you want to pass it over?
That's actually also how I got added to the group chat.
Okay.
Because it was this whole thing where my former roommate in that apartment where Izzy's Insight was born was in the group chat. Kayla was in the group chat, and I've known Kayla for 6 years or so. And then Brittany, who used to work with my sister-in-law, was in the group chat. So I was
all connected.
Everyone I know is in this group chat. And Kayla was like, "Let me add you."
Yeah. So because I think you just came to start sitting with us at the porch or something like that. And that's his history. Right. And then we, are friends now, and I love it.
And now we're pals.
And so, any fun stories? We have to be sort of brief because we're on kind of a time crunch for filming right now. But
if we just talk at double speed, it'll be perfect.
Well, okay. No, when I texted Jalen earlier, I said about podcast, right? And so we were talking about the podcast, and so it's an hour-long podcast. 30 minutes after I sent it to him, he goes, "Okay, I listened to it." And I was like, no. It's an hour long. There's no way you listened to it. 2 times speed. 2 times speed, I went back and listened on 2 times speed, and I was like, I am not getting a word that they are saying.
The problem is that I already talk in 2 times speed.
Yes.
So if you 2 times speed me, we're 4 times speed, and it's a problem.
Yes. It was a With the Perrys episode. And Jackie Hill Perry talks kind of slower. So what she was saying, I was like, I can kind of understand what she's saying. But then her husband talks so fast. And then the guests that were on it also talk extremely fast. And so every time they talked, it was just and I was like, he did not get a word out of this podcast. Anyway.
I have this one professor who makes me wish that there was a 3 times speed option because her normal speech, so on 3 times speed, she sounds kind of like this. And then you slow it down to normal because you just want to see what it sounds like. And it sounds like she's talking in slow motion. And it's the worst thing ever. I cannot stay focused. It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's terrible. Oh my gosh. Anyway. We already talked fast, so hopefully if you're listening on 2 times speed like Jalen, we're not too fast for you. But anyway, fun stories. What do you want to talk about? Any fun stories before we jump into the topic from our friendship? Our friendships.
Fun stories from our friendship?
Fun stories from us being friends.
Got anything?
I know, Red River comes to mind.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of Red River chats. Maybe not you. I'm thinking because the movie theater we went to was around Red River.
Yeah, it's literally.
And so I think that's maybe what I'm thinking of. And then you and me, because briefly with me and Kayla. I remember Kaylee. Sorry, wow. I remember.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I remember.
Side note: every time we introduce ourselves, people are like, Kayla and Kaylee, and we're like, correct.
Yeah. So I remember one thing that we agreed on that I just think is so funny is that the boys should always sleep on the right side of the bed. We had this conversation. I don't know how we got on this topic. We were driving home from the movie, I believe, or The Chosen. I think I was dropping you back off, and we were having this conversation. And I don't know how we got on the topic, but it was before. It was before because then during The Chosen, so Simon Peter is sleeping on the right side of the bed, and Chase goes, "Okay, which apostle is the most attractive?" And me and Kaylee are like, "Well, it's Peter because he's sleeping on the right side of the bed." And
period.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
that's just the way it has to be. I think it came out because this is one of my irrational fears that I'm going to fall madly in love with someone and then find out that they sleep on the left side of the bed, and I'm going to be like, "Well,
yes." But I will say,
it was fun while it lasted,
right? So because I was like, I always sleep on the left side of the bed, but normally I'll be kind of like diagonal, but like my head will be on the right side, but my feet always have to be on the left side, right? Mm-hmm. Well, last week I was dog sitting. I slept on the right side of the bed.
Sometimes it's the feng shui of the room.
It was the feng shui because it was closest to the door, closest to the bathroom. It was a king size bed. So it was kind of a hassle to go all the way over. I would have probably been sleeping more in the middle of it, but I was sleeping with dogs and the dogs were on me and wouldn't let me move. So I kind of had to be right on the edge. But I realized afterwards, I was like, dang, that's probably why I didn't sleep well because I was sleeping on the right side of the bed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that'll do it.
Yeah. I just remember that was something random that we've talked about before and just have really connected on.
For sure.
Anything else? Any other memories? Kayla? You and me went to Torchy's one time.
We did. And that was the beginning. I really didn't know you much at that point, but I was like, oh, I want to get to know this girl. Mm-hmm. I'm in Dallas. We might as well. So we went to lunch and it was honestly great.
It was so good.
And we were talking all about what you and Kaylee talked about in Izzy's Insights.
Yeah.
Which was so fun.
I think we talked for literally 3 hours probably.
Yeah, we did. It was
we just sat in Torchy's and talked for so long. And sometimes, when sometimes you're going to go out with somebody one-on-one and sometimes you're just I don't and especially if you barely know them. This was what was going through my head. I was we could be there for 20 minutes or we could be there for 4 hours and there's no in between because it's you might go and you'll be like, wow, I really don't know what to talk about with this person. Right. And it's really awkward and there's just conversations just not flowing and they're closed off or whatever. I've had this situation a lot. Not with you, but it's just if I don't know them well, I'm like, oh, okay, it'll be fine. And then I'm like, oh, this is so awkward.
But no, we were there forever.
We were there for so long. Conversation just boom, flowed. We were back and forth, both talking, because normally somebody hears that and they're like, oh, Izzy was talking the whole time. No, I wasn't.
No, she wasn't.
It was both of us. I know what you're thinking. It was both of us talking because I remember some of what we talked about and what you were talking about. And we were both going back and forth for a while. Yeah. So it's pretty cool how, that was the start of our friendship.
So fun.
And then we went to Red River a few times. Yeah. I haven't been in literally since probably February.
I refuse to go without Margaret.
It's so much fun going with her. I've literally only gone with her twice. It is so loud in there. You cannot hear a thing.
Oh,
so I refuse to go without someone I can sign with because I can't. I love to yap. Mm-hmm. And when you're a yapper, when you're in Red River, you just can't yap.
Can't yap,
but you can sign.
Yes,
and so I keep the yapping going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Red River is fun, usually with a good group, and I just haven't been in so long. So
me neither.
Yeah, but we'll go sometime soon. Yeah. Anyway,
should we tell a story from our friendship, Kayla?
Yes, I want to hear that.
Oh dear. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to us?
The funniest?
Yeah.
You guys are smushing Jesus.
Oh no. No, he's just.
It's okay.
Oh, hold on.
Who's that?
My boss.
Oh. Ooh.
It's okay.
The old one? No, your aunt. Okay.
Oh.
Funny stories?
Funny story.
What's the funniest thing that's happened?
I don't know.
The first thing that comes to mind.
I don't know.
Then you know it's gonna be good.
Well, what do you think it's going to be? Okay. The first thing that comes to mind was, this is embarrassing, and we probably shouldn't tell this on air, but it's okay.
I want to hear
When
it.
we were in
Now I'm
high
intrigued.
school, and we went on our senior trip to New York, and Kayla doesn't know where this is going, clearly.
Oh!
We were in a restaurant where
I'm on the edge of my seat.
it's like the people who like didn't quite make Broadway, but they still really are like wanting to pursue their dreams.
Diner. I've been there. Yes, I've been there. Yeah.
Stardust Diner or something.
Yes, because they all start singing and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
They perform, and there was this one
It's
guy.
in Glee. I think it's in Glee for an episode or something.
Is it
like
really?
that. I was a Glee girl back. I didn't do Glee Club or anything. I was homeschooled, but I watched a lot of Glee.
I don't think I've ever watched Glee, which is surprising.
Don't. It's not that good.
I've seen like
Because Kayla and I were real life theater kids.
It's not good.
we were.
Anyway.
So we were at this diner, and one of the performer guys was kind of cute, and we were talking about it. And one thing about me,
You're bold.
am bold for other people.
Mhm.
I cannot be bold for myself. That's not a thing I will do. Like if my meal is wrong, I think it's like the mom friend override, because if my meal is wrong, I will say nothing. But if my friend's meal is wrong, I'll be like, excuse me, she ordered sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were like, that guy's cute. And I don't know how it happened. One thing led to another, and by the end of the night, I asked him to marry Kayla.
Marry him.
Yes, I proposed for Kayla.
I don't think.
Were you drunk?
Like, but she did.
I was like, will you marry my friend? And he said, do you remember what he said?
Yeah. Sweetie, I think we're batting for the same team.
I literally was just about to say that. I was like, if you saw him in the Stardust or Diner or whatever, I was like, the chance of him being gay skyrocket.
Oh, God.
Yep.
I literally was like, he's gonna be gay. That boy is gay.
Yep. So that's the story of the time I proposed for Kayla, but he said no.
That's bold of you to propose.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's something you say when you're drunk. Of like, will you marry her? Or like,
Listen,
marry me?
we don't need alcohol to make bad decisions.
That's true.
We do it
Me
all on our
neither.
own.
Yeah. Clearly, yeah.
But also, that was many years ago. Many years ago.
So much.
Yes.
That's so funny. Honey, I think we're batting for the same team. That's so funny. Oh, that's
Which, like, we could have guessed. Maybe that's why I had.
I was gonna say,
That's
my
why
gay R is pretty good. I feel
think
like if
that's
I would have been there, I would have been
why
like,
I had
honey.
the boldness.
Probably because first you were in New York. You were talking to somebody you were never going to see again.
True.
And I was like 50% sure at least that he was gay. So, like, meh.
Yeah. So it's like, well, if he rejects us, it's because he's gay. So
Exactly.
that's so funny. That's so.
That's our story.
Yeah. I remember one more story with you, Kaylee. Is your ranch day?
Right.
That was so fun.
Kayla's been to the ranch too.
Kayla's been there, but she wasn't there this day, which
Right.
was sad. But we went to, so your family has a ranch in Waco, kind of like outside Waco. And you invited the group one time and you were like, hey, come hang for a weekend or for a day. And so we drove up on a Saturday. Some of us, I think there was like 7 of us maybe. And we just hung out at the ranch and we that was my first time driving a 4-wheeler. So fun. And then we did that boat, the
airboat.
The airboat. Y'all, look up an airboat. It's insane. I didn't know what to expect. And then I just saw your dad in the airboat, on land.
Mhm.
On land. And I was
Mhm.
like, whoa.
That part of the river's too shallow to put a propeller underwater.
Yeah.
So you have to have the propeller above water.
It's crazy. And then it was just such a fun, sweet, relaxing day. I remember the day before, I was just having a really, really hard day that day and just mentally kind of just all over. And I almost didn't go. And I don't know if anybody told you this.
Tisk tisk.
Because
No, I'm
all of
kidding.
us almost didn't come. Well, maybe not all of us, but I know at least, I remember I was talking to Troy and Chase on the way back because I carpooled back with them. I remember both of them were yeah, we almost didn't come either. Not because we didn't want to, but honestly, we were all just I was emotionally exhausted. And so the night before I was just do I want to go? I want to go, but I'm also I feel I just need a day with Jesus, whatever. And then I think Troy said that he was just really tired too and was kind of feeling the same way and just kind of in his head about stuff. And then Chase was some other plans possibly were going to come up. And he was like, not sure. And then I think I was talking to maybe Hannah about it briefly too. And she was also kind of like we were all like, do we go? Do we not? Again, not because we didn't want to go. It was just like, it honestly, like when I was talking to Troy and Chase about that, it kind of felt like, to me, I was just like, it felt like spiritual warfare. Like, and I don't know if it actually was, but like for me, I think it genuinely was spiritual warfare, because when I tell you how healing it was, like,
that's sweet.
The second I got there, like, I was just like, this is great. Like, this is awesome. This is what I needed. Like, this is like healing. Like, just, I think being out in nature and just like riding four-wheelers, it was the four-wheelers for me that I was like, this is the most healing thing. And it was just like insane, like how my mood just like shifted and how I just felt like so much better. And I was just like, man, and if I didn't go, I probably would have been feeling exactly the same as how I was feeling last night, just at my house, you know, and like wouldn't have like felt like rejuvenated. And like I did get to spend most time with the Lord, like in nature. And like, 'cause I remember me and Hannah at one point went off on our own, like y'all were in the river. And so we went off on our own and we're like riding the four-wheelers. And it was just like just something about that was like the most healing thing. Like me and her were kind of talking about it afterwards of like how much we needed that, and just like how it really like grew a lot of us on the trip closer together too, I feel like, and just kind of like bonded. So anyway,
it was a sweet time.
It was such a fun time.
Nature, community, and the
Spike
wind in your hair.
Yes.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
The airboat is my happy place.
Yes.
It just hits.
Yeah. And we had like little, like, we had headsets on, so we could like all hear each other. We're like, Roger. Like, it was like, which sadly there were four of them for one channel and then two of them for another channel. So you and your dad had the one channel. And like, sadly, like you couldn't hear the rest of us, but we were just like talking, asking questions, like laughing the whole time. It was great. It was like so good. Anyway, that was just like a fun memory that I remember. So I just wanted to bring that up to you.
That's so fun.
We're short on time. So do we have a time check? Are we doing good?
Yeah, it's 10 after.
Oh, so we've got time.
All the time in the world.
Anyway, so the question I ask everybody.
I have a confession.
Okay.
The reason I said it's 10 after and I didn't say a number is because my watch is analog and there's no numbers on it, just dashes. So I have to know exactly where every number is.
Fair.
I was like, it's 10 after an hour, but I can't tell you which one because it's just dashes because I like the way that it looks.
Yeah, that is cool.
But I have to like, if I need to know like the hour, I kind of have to count. I'm like 6 is in the bottom middle and it's
You're
one
brave.
past that.
You're smart, man. I could not do that. I couldn't do that.
My other watch has numbers on it.
Okay, but I don't like
this one doesn't.
I don't like analog watches in general. I'm like looking at it and I'm like, I don't know. It's there. It's a time. Like I could, if I sit there and read it.
Right.
But just the fact that it like takes a little bit to like sit there and read it.
Yeah, it would have taken me an extra like 2.5 seconds to figure out what the actual hour was, which is why I didn't. I was like, it's 10 after.
Yeah, could have been 10 after 8, 10 after 7. Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
I just had to get that off my chest.
No, I really appreciate that. I needed to know that. Yeah. So the question that I'll ask both of you collectively, we were going to do 2 separate episodes, but since we're short on time, we're going to just make it one. I think it's better that way anyway. So when is a time in your life that you feel like the Lord has asked you to hear him out about something? Who wants to go first?
I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Have you come up with something?
Oh.
She also probably hasn't, so she's like,
we had this talk yesterday.
Listen, right now is one of those times when the Lord is asking me to hear him out.
Hear me out, prepare.
We'll see what he has to say.
Yeah.
We were literally talking about this yesterday, and I was like, Kaylee, what are you going to say? She was like, I don't know. What are you going to say? And I was like, I don't know. But yeah, no. So I feel like it's happened a couple times in my life, but I feel like for the most part, the Lord puts me through a season. And then in hindsight or during the process, I learn a lot from it. More so than, I don't know, actually hearing the, hey, hear me out through this, you know?
Yeah.
And then going through that. However, so when I graduated from college, I graduated.
Where did you go?
John Bryant University. Ain't nobody ever heard of that.
Just letting Arkansas. People know. Yeah. It's in Arkansas. Yeah.
You don't count. No offense. You've known me forever. Yeah. But when I graduated from college, I graduated with kinesiology, sports medicine. I was intending on going to physical therapy school. I dropped physics and graduated early.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I can't go to PT school without physics. But yeah, so I graduated in December of 22 and was planning on staying in Arkansas through May with all of my friends. I had an apartment there. And I was planning on just working there, enjoying college for a little longer, I guess. And 2 weeks before graduation, I hadn't found what I would consider like an after college job. Like I totally could have babysat in town. I went to school in a really small town, so I need like what I would call like a big girl job, an adult job. I'd have to drive 45 minutes, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense, especially because I had no money as a college grad,
Yeah.
So 2 weeks before graduation, I told my roommates that I was moving home, and it hurt my pride a little bit because I was so adamant about not moving back into my parents' house, which love them, have nothing, like there's nothing wrong with that, but just in my head I was like, no, you don't do that when you graduate college,
Yeah.
So I moved back. I also told my roommates that I would continue to pay my part of the rent since it was just sprung on they had it. Wouldn't have probably been that big of a deal, but I didn't want them to have to make any changes whenever I had planned on staying.
Yeah.
But it was rough trying to make that decision and not being able to find a job up there. And definitely felt the Lord calling me to go home. So I had to make that decision. And it was definitely more comfortable that way. I lived at home for a few months and my dad gave me a job, so I worked for his company.
What was that?
So he owns a telecom company, so he does like construction cabling.
Okay, cool.
I was very much like the office girl.
Yeah.
I did a lot of their pre-quals, but that's construction.
It's a job.
Talk, so yeah.
It's a job, yeah.
No, I actually loved it. I also have flight benefits. And so
Cool.
I traveled so much. Unfortunately, I lose them in a month. And I'm so depressed about it, honestly. But yeah, so it was a great time. It was, definitely challenged me. I never wanted to be an adult. So I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? But I think that the Lord has definitely asked me to hear him out just with trusting him through post-college life. And definitely each job that I've gotten in the past, even like previously, like I had a job when I was like one of the summers through college where one of my former bosses at a camp I had worked at had come to me and asked me to return in like a supervisory role. And so I was able to go back and mentor a bunch of preteens, which I actually end up loving, but stretched me out of my comfort zone. But yeah, anyways, so post-grad, I worked for my dad for a few months, and then my aunt asked me to come work for her, and today is my 1 year of working for her, actually. Yeah, and that position has been so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But no, so my cousin and I felt called to pursue Apartment Life, which is a ministry through apartments. So the apartments will contract Apartment Life to come in and do resident events to boost their resident satisfaction and retention. But at the same time, as we build relationships, we do relational evangelism, and like through that has definitely pushed me. So in October, I started doing that with my cousin. She's my ministry partner. And I was so comfortable living in my parents' house at that point that it really freaked me out at the beginning. And I definitely felt called to like the purpose behind it, the actually doing ministry just in your own community. Loved it. Freaked me out. I'd always done it. I'd always done it with kids, working at a camp, Christian camp for 4 summers. And I was even comfortable doing it in my small, Christian private school that I went to growing up, and then my small Christian college that I grew up in. So it was very much, going into the real world, burst in my bubble, which, can be a good thing, but also
hard.
Very
hard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I moved out in with my cousin, which has been great. I love living with her. And we've been doing ministry together. And even in the first couple months, like the job part of it, I do this in addition to my day job. But the job part of it is so much fun. We throw events and we love it, and we've met so many people through it. I'm also very much an introvert, so even just that aspect of going and talking, and you're the host.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's like you can't just like stand there.
Everybody
it's like,
there.
oh, I'll let them come to me.
Right. Like, we can set up, great, throw the event, fantastic, no problem. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
The talking to people that I don't know, I hate small talk.
Oh, me too.
I want to immediately be your friend, but like the steps to get there.
That was part of like when we were first going to get Torchies or something, I was like, I don't want to just go in small talk. No, because
small talk is the worst.
Small talk is terrible.
Especially as a like young adult, as a new grad. I told my dad, it was the first time I had gone to the porch after graduating college. I was like, Dad, I had to tell people what I do for a living. Yes. That's one of the first questions. And I was like, what do? I do requalifications for a telecom company. Yes. Nobody knows what that is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an administrative assistant. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Where? You've never heard of it.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
It's the worst. I'm like, I like my job. Like, it's not that I don't like telling people what I do. It's just like,
we need some new questions.
Like, I want you to just know everything about me already. Yeah. Like, I want to just be able to like sit there and be like, oh, so this happened, so that happened. This is what I'm feeling today. Well, instead of just like,
tell me about your day. Tell me about your life. Don't tell me what you do. And like, where you went to school. Here's my favorite
color. Here's where I went to school. Yeah. No, oh, it's the worst.
Yeah. So I got over that pretty quickly. I feel like I had to,
Well, do you also like, by now you probably know some of the tenants and stuff that like come.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we have friends. Yeah. Like, whenever people move out and don't renew their leases, it is actually the saddest thing. Like, we were not prepared for that part of this job. But you like really get close to people, not necessarily close to people as you would with your biblical community, because that's completely different. Yeah. But there are for sure people that we go hang out with that come to every single event we throw, that, we text and invite to things. But yeah, no, when the guy above us moved out, it was so sad. But we still hang out with him. He's super cool. Fun. We love him. But yeah, no, so through this, we have to make a certain number of spiritual connections. So we have to, talk about the church we go to, talk about the Lord in some way, have some sort of spiritual connection every month, and which is weird having to log it. Yeah. Yes, super weird. But like, definitely gets you to have those conversations, because I don't know, it's been super great. But I shared the gospel for the first time with one of my, so I've done it twice, but one of them, he was a Christian already. So that was just me telling my testimony, like, it was super easy, The other guy has been coming to church with us. Cool. And so we met him in probably November, and he's come to church with me like 5 times now. That's awesome. He's asked me we travel a lot. Both of us do, me and Reagan. So he's asked me like, hey, every time you're in town, I want to come. And I was like, nice. Oh my gosh, I love this. So he walked in with me a couple weeks ago, and it was Communion Sunday. And he was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, perfect. Yeah. Like yes, he hears it at the end of the sermon, right? And we're going through the road of Romans, which is so perfect that he started coming. I know. Yeah. But so I got to share it with him, and I honestly was so excited. Like, I went home, I told my whole family about it. Like, that's awesome. Was so exciting. Yeah. And it was not hard. Yeah. Like, the anticipation of it can really freak people out. Not everybody. That still doesn't bother everybody. But like, especially as somebody who's only ever done it with kids and is super comfortable doing it with kids. With adults, it's completely different, right? So different. Oh my gosh. Like, and that's a deep conversation. And we should want to share that. Yeah. Yeah. But having the experience to actually do it was so incredible. And he was like, oh, okay, and he's literally now listened to sermons, and I've seen him, like, it was super uncomfortable for him. He was like, what do I need to expect when I'm at church? Whatever, because people have such like expectation. Yeah, exactly. And he was like, I need you to give me the exact layout, like, what do I need to wear? How is this gonna go? So I was like, right? I was like, okay, buddy, like, it's really gonna be okay. Like, come what you're comfortable in. Like, that's not the point of church, right? But I don't know. Now I've seen him like react to the sermon instead of just sitting there like super uncomfortable, because he's wanting to be there, but like, it's still uncomfortable, if you're not familiar with it necessarily. But so the day I shared the gospel with him, after we went in my car, and I just felt the Lord being like, hey, like, you need to ask him about it. You know, like you need to ask him what he thought, not just small talk on the way home. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
Because it's
like,
so easy. You could just be like, okay, well, glad you came. Bye.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what I had done the first couple times. And I was like, and you know, multiple times I've been like, okay, Kayla, like, Lord's clearly put this person in the car with you today. Like, he got there. You need to do more with that, right?
Yeah.
A few moments later.
We're back. So sorry about that. My phone was about to die. So we had to charge it for a little bit, take a little break, and now we're back. So what we were previously talking about, that was about 10 seconds ago for you, 20 minutes for us, was sharing the gospel, the guy. Continue.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, I just really, this last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago, really felt that the Lord was asking me to, you know, ask him his thoughts on it. Because you never know if the person has questions or, you know, wants to talk it out.
And they just like are too scared to say something.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, as, you know, uncomfortable though that might be for me or for him, like, you have to ask, you know? Like, you can't leave him hanging like that. Especially if that person does need that, you know, need the initiation of the conversation or...
Sometimes they just don't know what to ask either. Like sometimes they're just like, well, I don't know really what to say, how to start this conversation. Yes. Yeah.
And like, I don't know. But I ended out asking him. I was like, so do you have any questions? Like after the sermon. I waited till after the sermon, obviously, not just in the pew. Like, oh man, let's ignore him for now. But yeah, so whenever we got in the car, I was like, hey, so like, do you have any, you know, questions about anything during the sermon or any comments, like, you know, because bounce ideas off each other, especially somebody who's not a Christian could be so confused walking out of a sermon, you know. And he was like, not at the moment, but I really appreciate you asking that. And I was like, oh good, like, even though he didn't have anything, like, I want him to know, like, hey, like, you can ask me things, like, it's okay. Don't feel like, I know it can be uncomfortable, but like, don't feel like you're a burden at all, but also like, please do. Like, I'm happy. I don't know everything, right? I can't answer everything, but I'm happy to try or point you to resources but the next thing I want to do is buy him a Bible.
Yes. Yeah.
I have been thinking about it and I think I will. I need to get on that, especially because he told me he might be moving back to California and I'm like, it wouldn't be, he already signed his year lease, so it wouldn't be for another year. But he's unhappy with his job, so he's trying to figure all that out. But yeah, that's what I want to do next.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and also just like you're planting seeds, you know? Like I think that's sometimes a hard thing about sharing the gospel. Like when I share the gospel, I'm like, okay, I want them to become a Christian right here. Like I'm ready. I'm sharing the gospel with them and they're going to become a Christian right now. And like that's never happened for me personally. It can happen and it's great when it does, but I feel like every time, like it's honestly been a good lesson for me, like that it's not on me, like, and it's not about me and it's not anything I've done or anything I do. And like, it's literally all Jesus and like all God changing their hearts. Like all we're doing is planting the seed and the Holy Spirit's watering it, you know? And like, just praying that it's one of the seeds that flourishes, you know, and like that parable that Jesus talks about, how like we can plant seeds, but then some of them get crushed or some of them die or something. Like they all just like, there's like a bunch that just don't flourish because of just different things, you know, just spiritual warfare, just not like it could fall on deaf ears, you know, whatever. But then like, there's that one seed that like is planting good soil. It's in a good path. It's like in a place that it's not going to be trampled. You know, it's not attacked by the birds or whatever. Like it grows and it flourishes, and just praying that like those seeds do, like every time I plant a seed, it's like, okay, let me just pray that like it flourishes, because like I might not ever be able to see it flourish. Like I might not be able to ever see the fruit of this, but just knowing that like it's the Holy Spirit's job and like it's not mine. And because I think sometimes I can get so prideful of like, okay, yes, I'm gonna say all the right words, and then like, which sometimes I get nervous of like I have to say all the right words, but then it's also like it doesn't matter what you say. Like you can pray going into it, and you should pray going into it, like Lord, give me the right words. But like ultimately, like the Holy Spirit can like change whatever you're saying to like be exactly what they need to hear. Yeah. You could be saying nothing, like and God's got the power saying the complete opposite thing, and then they hear it as the right thing, you know? Right. And like God has the power to like use it, you know. You can just gotta try. Like, yeah, we should be trying to make sure that we're giving them the right information, and we don't want to be telling them the false things, and we want to make sure that like we're praying for their souls and praying for like them to hear the right things, you know. Jesus is really sorry, he's really fallen over there.
Sorry.
Sorry, I just noticed that. But yeah, it's just like I think there's been a lot of situations recently where I've shared the gospel and it's been people I've like never see again, that I'm like, I'm probably never gonna see you again, and like that's so hard and sad for me, because I'm like, but I like want to see you again, and I want to see you like become a Christian, and like I want to see your life. Or like there's people in my life who aren't Christians yet, and I'm like still, you know, evangelizing to and like still pouring into and like trying to like be a good influence on them and like be there for them. But it's so hard to be patient enough, because I'm like, Lord, I just want them to be a Christian. I just want them to follow you. But it's like, it takes time for a seed to grow. Some seeds grow quicker than others, you know? And so
like mushrooms.
Mm-hmm. Do they
maybe sprout overnight?
Really? Well, most people are not mushroom seeds.
No.
Right.
Those aren't seeds, they're spores. So bad analogy.
Mushroom facts. Yeah, but that's really good. Okay, we don't have a ton of time left, so should we go over to Kaylee?
Sure. Also, just on that, I feel like that was one thing that the Lord has taught me, is that like it's not about me and it's not on me to change their heart. It's the Holy Spirit changing their hearts. But there has been times where the Lord was really gracious to kind of show the fruit of what He has grown in just that. Like I shared the gospel with someone, then a lot of time passed, and then a long time later, she reached out to me when her life wasn't going well and was like, you were the only person I could think to call.
That's awesome.
And so like that can things like that can happen, you know, if you just are consistent and you like be there for that person, you know.
And I also kind of going back to like everything you talked about, because I realized we didn't really like debrief all of it, but like just the way that the Lord took you out of, you know, Arkansas and was like, hey, just hear me out, like move back in with your parents for a little bit and like just trust me, like, you know, completely different path in kinesiology. And like, but like with, you know, like if you didn't change everything, like if all of this didn't change, like you wouldn't be growing so much in evangelism, you wouldn't be growing so much in your faith and your walk with the Lord, and just like allowing Him to grow you in that area. Cause like that was an area where it's like, I'm not really good at this. Like, I don't know about this, Lord, but like just saying yes, you know, to all the hear me outs, and just like obeying the Lord and being so faithful in that, and just like trusting even when it doesn't make sense or it doesn't look good or whatever. It's just awesome. So that's really encouraging. And just like to hear just your faithfulness, and like just also knowing you and being your friend, and like seeing how like apartment life has grown you, and like how like, you know, I didn't know you before apartment life. I think I met you right before you started it. But like, but like just knowing and like seeing how, like, even just in the past couple months, like how you've grown with it, and like how, like, just the Lord has grown you in that area is just so cool. And so, and like it never would have happened if you had stayed in Arkansas, you know, or so, yeah.
PT school right now.
Yeah, right.
That's wild. School. Can you imagine?
Crazy. Yeah. Kaylee's in school.
Yeah.
So what's your hear me out moment?
Oh, okay. I'm having a hard time deciding on just one, because
you can say multiple.
Also, I feel like Kayla said before, a lot of times the Lord's hear me out moments have been kind of in hindsight, you know?
Yeah.
Where I like to say that the Lord kind of leads me with breadcrumb trail. I don't often have like a super distant future. I'm just like, I'm kind of an idiot. And so if I had like a really distant plan, I'd find a way to mess it up.
Right.
And so I feel
all of us would. Literally all of us would.
Yeah. So I feel like I just be like walking into rooms, and then the Lord just like opens a door, and I'm like, cool, a door.
Yeah.
And I walk through it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just look back and I'm like, oh, that led me here, you know? So I feel like that's kind of how a lot of the Lord has led me in my life, has just been like, not like accidental, but like where I didn't even realize He was leading me there until I got there.
Like it's not like you had this big like epiphany, or like, oh my God, like philosophy, whatever. It's like, it's like you weren't like, oh my gosh, God wants me to do this and I need to go do this. And then like, years later it happens or whatever. It's just like you're in the moment.
Which is so sweet of the Lord, because I am an anxious person. And if I was like, the Lord is calling me to this thing 10 steps ahead and it hasn't happened yet, I would worry about every single step. But because he just kind of gives me like, and that's just the thing I love about the Lord's Prayer when it talks about give us this day our daily bread. I just feel like the Lord like lights one step for me at a time, because he knows if he were to light more, I would start panicking and asking a lot of questions. And
I mean, it's
maybe that way is better. I don't know. Are you sure? You know,
I mean, it's like the headlights on a car, you know, it's like they only show directly in front of you. You can't see like 30 miles out in front of you. You can just see directly in front of you. And it's just like, that's like that. I heard that analogy a couple weeks ago, but it's just like, if you could see like everything, like, I mean, during the day you can, but like at night, like it's just made to just show you like what's just in front of you to like keep you going, you know?
Right. Just like, I think it was at the porch, maybe it wasn't my home church, but I had somebody said at a church service, I think it was at the porch, he was like, I like to see the whole directions to get there. Like, I want to know all the highways.
I think it was Kylan. It was Kylan,
Yeah. And it was
this is like one of his first, wait.
Okay. Rub it on your neck like this.
We're learning sign language, guys. Hey, Kylan, signs. If you ever listen to this or watch this is your sign name.
That's what they call
maybe I'll get Kylan on the podcast. Yeah. I have connections. I could probably get him on. Why?
Because his vein pops real big when he.
Oh, it does. Kylan, this is your vein popping. Anyway, but we love you. Anyway, I remember this was like one of his first sermons.
He was like, but there's a reason that like whenever you have it in CarPlay, it shows you your little arrow where you are right now instead of the entire map, because you would really need more help than that for somewhere you don't know where you're going, right? Like it doesn't tell you necessarily what lane to be in right now. But I don't know. I thought it was a great analogy.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
And
a lamp unto my feet.
Yes. And like kind of to that a little bit of like, I think that also the Lord sometimes can grow us and kind of grow like patience and trust and like understanding in us when maybe he does reveal something to you or like does put something on your heart, but it doesn't happen for a while. And then he has to grow that like in that anxiety of like, and that fear of like, well, it's not happening right now, so that means it's not going to happen. Or like, why isn't it happening? Or what, did I do this wrong? But like, because I'm that person.
Same.
But I feel like recently the Lord's been doing a lot, and like, there's a lot of unknowns in my life, obviously. But there have been some things where I feel like the Lord's revealed to me, but I'm like, but it hasn't happened. So is it really going to happen? Or, you know, whatever. Right. And like, just that trust and blind faith of like, and just like casting my anxieties to him, like the Bible says. And it's just like, hey, like, I think you said this is going to happen. If it's going to happen, cool. Like, I'm giving that to you and I'm trusting you with the rest, even though it doesn't look like it, even though like, because think about all the people, sorry, I was getting slightly sidetracked, but like,
no, you're so good.
All of the people in the Bible who had to wait. Like, but God told them ahead of time, revealed to them ahead of time, made them a promise ahead of time and said, I'm going to do this. And then he didn't for a long time. Right. He eventually did, but for a while he didn't. And so it's like, I sometimes really wish, like, when I get to heaven, people are like, oh, you're going to talk to you when you get to heaven. It's like, I'm going to talk to all those people who waited and be like, what was it like?
Joseph, y'all.
Yes. Literally.
He had no idea what the end of his story was going to be.
Like, well,
and it was
did.
Years.
But think about it. He did in a way. Like, because God gave him those dreams all the way when he was like, but here's the thing that I'm going to get, here's one of the things that I've been learning. Okay. He shouldn't have told his brothers. And he shouldn't have told anybody, you know? And it's like some things, I listened to a podcast the other day and this murdered me, convicted me, like just, you know, anyway, because I'm a talker, I'm a yapper, you know, and I get excited about things and I love to share what Jesus is talking to me about and I love to just like share everything. But there was this girl, she's sharing her story, whatever, but she just talks about how she was like, one of the things I shouldn't have done, like she's talking about how she messed up in a situation, right? And she was like, I messed up because I got so excited about what God told me that I went and told everybody. And like, some things are meant for just you and God. And like, it's okay to not go tell everybody that until it comes to pass. And like, sometimes God is like, I want to keep this between me and you. And this is going to be our little secret and our way of like growing in intimacy. And I need you to have that maturity to keep this between me and you, and not to bring everybody else in, because then everybody else, their voices get in. And then you start questioning, and then people are like, well, God didn't say that, or why would God tell you that, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, instead of just holding on to that and just letting that be your thing with you and God, and just like, she was like, there were things that like I didn't understand, like that I felt like God told me, but I didn't understand in that moment. But like, I got to just, like when she finally was like, I need to stop talking about it. I need to stop bringing people into this. It's going to be me and you, God, about it. Like she got to like start going in deeper with God and letting him reveal what it meant, and like letting him like letting him grow that intimacy, and letting him like reveal everything to her, and like in time, you know, without her having like, and her constantly talking about it. And then she was like, when it finally did happen, I wasn't like as like connected, I don't know the word she used, but like she wasn't as like obsessed with it as like when she had went and told everybody like, this is gonna happen, you know.
Yeah.
And like and then just her telling people also affected things, like, and hurt some people, and just like it was not the mature thing to do, you know. And she was just like, me growing in maturity was realizing I don't have to tell everyone everything. And I was like, man. And so same thing with Joseph,
Right.
like because he went and told his brothers, they got mad and they threw him into slavery. Like they threw him in that pit. Whereas if like, imagine if he just had kept that to himself, like because he was immature, like he didn't think about, I mean, he was young, you know, and he's like just excited. He's like, oh, God told me this. Like, God, this is going to happen.
God told me I'm going to rule over all of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like looking back, like that is an immature, like he should have just kept that to himself of like, okay, great. Thanks for revealing that to me, Lord. But like, I'll keep that between me and you, because like, he's basically going and gloating to his brothers. And of course they're going to get upset and like, you know, and so anyway, that's just like all that to say, like, I think on the opposite, like end of things, like God can sometimes really like help you by not telling you what's like gonna happen, and then it's like, okay, I'm just gonna take it, we're gonna take it one day at a time, which is great. On the other spectrum, sometimes he does want to reveal things to us to like grow us in that trust and faith of like, hey, like I'm gonna tell you this and it's not gonna happen for a while, and you're not gonna know when it's gonna happen, but like and it's not gonna look like it's gonna happen probably, but you're just gonna have to trust me, you know. Like Abraham, like he, like Romans 4, he hoped against hope, you know, and he was just like, okay, I'm old, my wife's old, it doesn't make sense for us to have a child. He waited like 20, 25 years or whatever since when God told him he was gonna have a kid to when he actually had a kid. And it's just like, in that 20 years, I want to be like, what were you? Yeah, like, yeah, I was like, would you be like, were you doubting? Or like, because it says in Romans 4, he had an unwavering faith. And I'm like, did he really? Because I'm struggling with my faith, and like not faith in God, but like sometimes if I feel like God tells me something and it's not happening, I'm like, did God really tell me that? Like, I feel like I go back and forth of like, I don't know if God really told me that, or like, I don't think that's happening, or, you know, whatever. But like he had unwavering faith. And so I think both ends of the spectrum, like God can use like by not telling you things and just making you walk it step by step, like not knowing what's going to happen, because that can also really grow your faith and trust too, because it's like, well, you didn't tell me what's going to happen, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and only he knows which one is going to be the best for you in that season.
Yes. Yeah. Also, anyway, that's
on the topic of Joseph, I also just think like it's crazy that like, he shouldn't have told his brothers that, but then like at the end of the day and at the end of the story, I think it's Genesis 51. Don't quote me on that. Whenever he says
quarter.
Don't quote me. Whenever he says though, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. So like the whole wrap up of all that is just that like only the Lord knows. Only he knows what's going to happen. Only he knows the best way to deliver that to you. And only he knows how he's going to work even your mistakes for his good and his glory.
Yes.
And it's just 100%. Very comforting.
Yes, that is what she was saying in the podcast too. Like she wasn't even talking about Joseph. That was I just kind of pulled that out of nowhere, but I just like remembered it of like, oh, he had a dream and he told everybody about it and he shouldn't have. But like she was talking about how she was like, thank God that God is God and I am not, because because she was like, because I like could have ruined everything. Like I didn't ruin God's plan by going and telling everybody.
Right.
Should I have done it? No. Was it immature? Yes. But she was like, but God still redeemed it and like still used it and still worked out his plan regardless of my actions. And like I didn't miss out on his plan for me. And like, was there pain, that unnecessary pain? Yes. But like still, he still blessed me and like still gave me, like still did what, like I could have stopped the thing that he told me was going to happen from coming true because I told everybody and I was immature about it and I didn't handle it well. But like he didn't, like he still did that. Like he still did it. And so I think like exactly to your point. Yeah. Like that is so true of like, we cannot mess up God's plan for us. And like, that's something that is something I am so struggling with right now because I like recently did some things that I just really hurt some people and like hurt a lot of people. And I like have just been beating myself up over it. Shout out to Satan for that one. But it's like, I also at the same time listen to that podcast and like even just this conversation and other conversations I have with friends, it's like I cannot mess it up. And like the Lord can use my mistakes. Right. And the Lord, look throughout the Bible, the Lord used everybody's mistakes. And like, yes, people made mistakes and they sinned and God still used them and still still used that. And like God used Joseph being immature and then his immature actions causing his brothers to throw, like he used it. It was like a sequence of events. Like he used all of it. He was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that, but I'm still going to use that. And like, God's just so good for that, you know, because we don't deserve that. And like, we deserve for us to sin and then have to deal with all of our consequences of all of our actions and then not get anything good. And God's like, you're going to deal with some consequences, but like I also have good for you, you know? Right. Anyway, that's my rant.
No, yeah. So good. So good. Mm-hmm. One time I went to my brother's church when he was in college and I was in high school and I was visiting and
okay.
Huh? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And I was visiting my brother's church and they had a guest pastor and you know how sometimes just random things just like stick with you for some reason?
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but this one thing just stuck with me. He was British. So he said it like this.
I love British.
He said, it is such good news that God is sovereign and we're not. And I was like,
that's good.
Dang. That is such good news.
Should we talk the rest of the
That's such good news. British. And that just stuck with me.
Oh, that's good. I think we're British now.
Yeah. But anyways, that just like stuck with me for so long because I was like, man, if I were sovereign, I would have messed up my life like a million times over. But like the Lord is like, it's okay because you're not. I am. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And just the forgiveness that the Lord gives us. It's incredible. Anyway, do you want to is there any like specific story about Hear 'Em Out? We didn't really talk about that.
We didn't, but I can tell it really, really fast. Okay, I can speak pretty quickly. So I know Kayla has to leave. It's 8:03.
Oh, do you gotta leave?
Also, not Kayla me getting the hour and the minute.
Good for you. Oh, yeah, dang. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, really quickly.
Yeah, super fast. So one of the ones that I was thinking of that really just came to mind, my junior year of college was a very growing experience for me. There were just a lot of things that happened.
Where'd you go?
I went to Baylor, Sigma Bears, and I was my freshman year / sophomore year, sophomore year, really. I wanted to be on the worship team at my church and I auditioned and they were like, we like to audition, but we don't have a place right now. And so I was like, awesome, rejection, but that's okay. I'm just going to serve somewhere else and the Lord's going to use me in the background. And then once I resolved to do that, they called me and they were like, hey, a spot opened up and we'd love for you to fill it. And I was like, oh, they weren't lying. Yeah. I thought they were just trying to let me down easy, but they actually just didn't have a spot. And so I ended up being on the worship team and that was really great. Awesome. And the Lord was like using me in that way. And then I started having problems with my vocal cords and I had to take a break and I had to take a step back from leading worship. And that was really, really hard for me because I was like, this is where I serve and this is what the Lord's calling me to do. And it's wonderful, but I can't do it right now because like everyone's telling me that I can't use my voice this way right now. I need to go on vocal rest and I have to do vocal therapy and all this stuff. And it was so hard for me because for the first time I realized that I was putting so much of my value in what I was bringing to the table. And in that moment, I wasn't bringing anything to that table, nothing. And it was just like, I was faced with like a moment of just like my own weakness and my flesh not being able to do what I thought I should be able to do and serve the Lord in the way that I felt like I should be able to. But then I realized that I was putting that all on myself, that I was thinking that I was the one serving the Lord. And also I saw the way that the team valued me just because I had value, inherent value, because I was a child of God, not because I was bringing something to the table. And so I was just like, wow, I'm actually giving nothing right now. And I'm still like in my weakness, like he is doing something in me and through me. And then right after that, I ended up going to serve the Lord in an interesting turn of events. The Lord called me to spend 3 months living in Tennessee, working for a deaf church camp.
Oh, wow.
And I was probably the weakest signer at the time. I'd only finished ASL 4. So I wasn't fluent or anything. And I
feel like ASL 4 is pretty fluent.
Yeah, but others were like CODAs, children of deaf adults, or interpreting students. Like this was like their thing, you know? And so I was one of the least experienced signers. And it was right after this vocal cord, vocal rest incident. So I was already having like a hard time with like feeling like I wasn't bringing a lot. And then I was going into a situation where like I was the weakest link. But like the Lord grew me so much, Arnar.
It's okay. Keep talking.
I think it's still recording. The Lord grew me so much in that experience. And
yeah, it's still going.
Nice. Okay. The Lord grew me so much in that experience. Just having those things back to back where the Lord was like, you're not sufficient.
Yeah.
Like you are weak. Because I feel like society is like, you girl, you are enough.
Yeah.
And the Lord was just like, you're not enough, but like I am. I am through you and in Christ, you. And because of that, you are enough, you know? And there was just a lot of that, like, that was like my kind of like, hear me out moment where the Lord was like, listen, hear me out. Like you are not sufficient, but my grace is sufficient for you. And my power is made perfect in weakness.
Yes.
And so I was like, I just learned so much. And the Lord actually used me to share the gospel with a kid that summer who ended up coming to faith in Christ. And so it was just like,
awesome.
It was a lot of just ways
that was like, a mushroom.
It was,
plant.
yeah, he was a mushroom.
Mushroom seed.
Mushrooms or question mark? I don't know.
Mushrooms or, I don't know.
But yeah, so it was just like a lot of, I was faced so heavily and so like, clearly with my own weakness. And that was when I was truly able to lean on the Lord. I heard a podcast where this is kind of, I know we're super running out of time, but this is a little bit off topic, but someone had said she had been in a wheelchair her whole life. And she was talking about just like her weakness, but she said something about how the weaker she became, the harder she had to lean on God, and the harder she had to lean on God, the stronger she discovered him to be. And it reminds me of I think it's Spurgeon, maybe, who says, I've learned to kiss the wave that cast me against the rock of ages. And so I feel like it was one of my weakest points, but it was also one of my biggest points of growth because I learned that in an odd way, being so like unuseful to my team, the thing that I had put a lot of my value and identity in, and then being the worst at something back to back was just like, it was like a hit to my pride.
It's humbling. It's extremely humbling.
But then it was super growing to my confidence in like a weird way because I was like, my pride is nothing, but my confidence is in the Lord.
Right. Your confidence was growing because you're like, I'm confident in Christ.
Yeah. So then I was able to be, and like it bled into all other areas of my life where I was able to be more confident in like who the Lord made me to be because I realized like it's not about me. Yeah. And so, it was just a wild series of events in college that just kind of led me to face my own ineptitude and then realize just the undying strength and unchangeable God.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts as we wrap up? That's really, really good.
I actually do have one final thought. I meant to
go
say
for
this
it.
earlier and I forgot
say it.
It's back on the topic of waiting on the Lord.
Oh yeah.
Because that's a big thing for me
say
right
it.
now.
Yeah.
Because
we can talk about anything.
That's what the Lord is also right now. That's what he wants me to hear him out on. It's just like waiting because I don't know what my future looks like. And I heard
we're all in the same boat.
I heard
it's the Titanic. We're all sinking.
We're just playing the music as we sing. We're the band. We're the Titanic band. But yeah, going down with the ship. But I saw a girl on Instagram the other day, something said something about how when someone is right on time, it means they're not a minute early or a minute late. Did you see this video?
Well, I saw it, and then keep talking. I'll say it in a second. Keep talking.
It was wild. She was like, they're not a minute early and they're not a minute late. But if you're like, if the meeting starts at 9 and you're there at 8:55 and then 8:56, 8:57, 8:58, you're like, they're not coming. Like, it's like the meeting's about to start, 8:59 and 30 seconds. Like, they're not coming. They show up right at 9. You think like they're not coming at all, but they are right on time. And I feel like that's how we are with God a lot, is like the closer it gets, like we're like, maybe this isn't happening, but God has perfect timing. He is not late, but neither is he early. And a wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. But for those of you who got that quote, that's,
I didn't even get that quote.
That's the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh,
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that Wizard of Oz.
But
I was like, wizard.
Close enough.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's good. So I did hear that on Instagram, like probably like it's about a month and a half ago, I would say. And then a couple weeks later, just really this idea of like, I'm right on time was just like in my head, like of just the Lord said, because there were some things that I was like, Lord, so where are you?
10 past an hour
in our timeline, right? Because it's like
it's
in
10
our
past
timeline,
something, so I feel like it should be happening now.
It's like it should be happening right now. Like by my calculations, it should be happening, you know? But God's like, well, in my time, I'm right on time. And it's funny because I was serving at church in the kids ministry, and I was like, the girl I was normally partnered with was out. So I got like a fill-in and was just like talking to her. Like we were just talking to the girls, whatever. And like the girls are asking her questions, whatever. And part of her story, like kind of just really spoke to me in the moment of just like something I really needed to hear that I didn't realize I needed to hear. And like just something that it just felt like the Lord was like speaking to me through her story. And just like, yeah. And then she's telling the girls, and she's telling them the exact same thing. And like the thing that she was talking about and like that spoke to me was the thing that I was like, Lord, like where are you at on this? Like you're not on time, you're late, you know, because I told God that a lot, you know. Aren't we so like so funny for us to tell God he's late?
Right.
I've told God that a lot in the past couple months. I'm like, you're late, and it's like, no, he isn't. But then I'm realizing more and more. I'm like, thank God it didn't come this moment. Thank God it didn't come in this moment. Thank God it didn't come in this moment. But it's like in the moment, I'm like, oh, I want it now. Anyway, but then she's telling the kids the exact same story of just like God's always on time. Like he's never late. Like if you go to a birthday party and you show up early, like you're early. If you show up late, you're late. Like, but God shows up right at 2 p.m., right when the party starts, you know, and that's not late, you know, but it's also not early, and he's always right on time. Right. And it's just like how like it just like hit me even harder of just like, okay, Lord, you're gonna be right on time. And then like a couple of days later, I was telling God he's late again. And I just felt like the Lord said, I literally told you this a couple of days ago. I'm right on time. And I was like, oh, I know, you know. And so it's just funny.
I know you did, but I forgot.
Right.
I do that sometimes.
Right. No, literally. And just like remembering like we're closing, I promise. But remembering like, because when I say God, like when I'm like, God, you're late. Like I've told God that so many times. But like when I tell that, which is just me being honest. Like I think also it's like, I mean, that's me being sinful, yes, but it's also me just being honest with the Lord and saying, this is where I'm at. It feels like you're late. It feels like you missed this. It feels like you told me this is going to happen and now it hasn't happened. It feels like you lied, whatever. But it's just, I always, every single time, like back in December, I was praying about something. And I just was like, Lord, you're late. And I just was like, why hasn't this happened? You're late. And that was kind of like the first time in a long time that I had prayed that. Like the first time where I really was like, you're late. Like you're definitely late. Like this is it, Lord, you're late. And just immediately on my heart was the story of Lazarus and the story of Mary and Martha running up to God and saying, you're late, running up to Jesus and being like, you're late. Why weren't you here 3 days ago? Why weren't you here before he died? Like you're late. And just like yelling at him because they're mad and they're upset. And they're like, if you were here, he wouldn't have died. And like, that's exactly where I was at in December, where I was like, if you just showed up a little bit sooner, this wouldn't have happened. Like, or if, you know, like, and I feel like I'm continually in that process, you know, but it's like, every single time I say that to God, it's just immediately like Mary and Martha's voices in my head, or not voices, but like that story is in my head, and God just saying, I came late, so that, quote unquote late, so that my glory could be shown. Because the reason he got there 4 days late was because he wanted Lazarus to be real good and dead, so that he could show people that he could raise people from the dead.
Right.
Like, and he would have gotten way more glory for that. And like, people would have been like, wow, he really is the Son of God. If like, only if that had happened. If he had just healed Lazarus from his sickness, that wouldn't like have changed things. It wouldn't have happened. Like,
it might not have even made it in the Bible.
Yes.
Because John says that all the signs and wonders and things he did, if you put them in all the scrolls in the world, there wouldn't be enough room.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, and he had already healed people from sicknesses and stuff. So it's like, why add another one in there, you know? But like the fact that he healed him like from the dead, or he brought him back from the dead, like that was big. And so it's just like this reminder of like, God sometimes likes to make situations so extremely impossible in your life, so extremely dead. He loves to like kill things in your life so that he can raise them back up from the dead, or like make things like extremely impossible and look extremely hopeless, like to get the glory out of it. Like everybody in the Bible, like just think about it. Like,
right. It's just about, well, then go to him.
Yeah.
You know, be fully dependent on him, because so much of the time we're like, I've got this, I can do it, I'm going to depend on myself, or my friend's going to help me, or whatever. And we don't go to God with it. But if he waits till that point, then not only will he get all the glory from, you know, rising it back up, but he also gets our full dependence, which is we should always be in.
Yes.
Because we can't do things on our own.
And I just posted like an Instagram thing about this, but like this idea of hoping in God over hoping in our circumstances. And like, you always hear hope in God, but it's like, what does that really mean? And like something that I feel like the Lord's really been teaching me of like how to hope in God is because I've been hoping in different things in my situations. Like in these hopeless situations, I'm placing my hope in people, or in mostly people, or in like money, or, you know, like whatever, or like my job. It's like, okay, well, I'm placing my hope in my job to provide financially so that I can pay off my debt. Or I'm placing my hope in people at work changing their mind so that work situations get better. And that it's like, I'm placing my hope in people, and like, or in things, or I'm placing, like, I think I mentioned like placing hope in your body, or in medicine, or whatever. Like, and all these people throughout the Bible, it's like if they had placed their hope in their situations, or like in things in their situations, like they would have been in those hopeless situations forever. But the fact that they placed their hope in God, and knew, like Abraham again, hoped against all hope. Like if he had hoped in his body and his wife's body, they wouldn't have had a baby. But like he hoped against that hope of like his body, you know, producing a child. And like he trusted in the God of hope, that like, because I trust in him and hope in him, like this situation is not hopeless anymore. And I think that that's just really something that's been speaking to me, because there's hopeless situations in my life, you know, and they keep getting a little more hopeless. And I'm like, okay, Lord, we can start like, you know, making them slightly less hopeless maybe, and like slightly less impossible. But I just feel like every time something gets like slightly more hopeless, it's just like this like comforting like spirit, you know, like just word from the spirit of like, do you trust me? Like, do you trust me? And are you placing your hope in me? Are you placing your hope in this thing? Like, are you every time it's like just this heart check of like, oh, I'm placing my hope in that. Like, I'm placing my hope that they're going to change their mind, or that, you know, whatever, all the things I mentioned earlier. It's like, I'm placing my hope in that for sure. And so, yeah, it's just looking impossible. And my hope is decreasing day by day, because I'm not placing my hope in the fact that the Lord can change the situation, and the Lord can redeem this situation, you know? So anyway.
One closing thought.
Perfect.
I feel like it kind of ties a bow on a lot of the things.
30 minutes later.
Yeah. A wise friend of mine, I was starting school. I'm a Doctor of Audiology student, and I was starting a new school in a new place, at a new apartment, a new everything. And I was getting really anxious. And a very wise friend of mine was telling me that, like, the Lord will be faithful and the Lord will provide. And that's something that we say a lot. But he was telling me, the Lord is also outside of time. So not only will the Lord be faithful, but he already is faithful in your future. So he was like, the same God that you're praying to and casting your anxieties on right now is with you now in 10 years when you're practicing audiology. He's with you in those moments. Not only will he be faithful, but he already is faithful tomorrow. You know, and I feel like just kind of that realization that like it's already done. Like it's not that I'm just like, I'm hoping God will do what he says he will do, which is true. But I'm also, my hope is that he has already done it and he already is faithful because he is unchanging. So I change and my circumstances change, but he does not change. And so the same God who will be faithful tomorrow is already faithful tomorrow. And this same friend was talking about how he is seated at the throne. He's not running around scrambling, trying to put the puzzle pieces of your life together. Like it is done. And so you can just rest in the fact that even while you're waiting and it looks like it's not done yet, like his plan is perfect and he is already faithful to bring it to fruition.
And just in that, because I was listening to a podcast again, different podcast, but I was listening to a different podcast a couple of days ago, and she was just saying,
who listens to podcasts?
I know, it's ridiculous, but and she was talking about how she was in this really long waiting season and she really felt like the Lord gave her this word. And so she just started praying, like instead of praying and asking for it to come to pass, she just started praying, thank you that you've already done it. Like, thank you, like exactly what you're talking about, of just being thankful and having these thankfulness prayers. And instead of like sitting there begging the Lord, like, can you please make it happen? Can you please do it? Like, please, you told me this is going to happen, so please do it. It's like, no, you told me this is going to happen, so thank you that you've already done it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but you've already done it. Like, and just thank you for that. And like, that's something that, and even if you don't have that like quote unquote promise from God, like a specific thing or whatever, it's like, just knowing like, thank you, Lord, that you already know what a week from now looks like. And thank you that you're going to be faithful in that. And like, just thanking the Lord for the future, like thanking the Lord now for like, and I think it really helps you like just have so much peace, because then it just reminds you of like, he already knows what's happening. Like, and if he said it's going to happen, it's going to happen, you know, like in Luke, it says, blessed is she is the one who like believes that the Lord is going to do what he said he's going to do, or something like that. Because it's, is it still recording? No. Oh, I think it's on 10%, so we're getting closer. Sorry, guys. We're almost done. But basically, yeah, it's just talking about Mary and how, you know, the angel came to Mary and said, hey, I'm going to do this. Like, you're going to have a baby. And she just was like, okay. Like, and she just believed. Like, she wasn't, I mean, I think she questioned a little bit, but she wasn't like, she was like, okay, God said it's going to happen, so I'm going to believe that it's going to happen. And like, just how, like, if the Lord.
And then she prayed a prayer of gratitude.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, why don't we do that? Like, if we get a word from the Lord, or if we feel like the Lord's putting something on our heart, and, you know, or we're just anxious the whole time, like leading up to it. But like, just like Mary was like, okay, Lord, great. And then she was like, well, thanks for what you're going to do. Thanks for this. Like, thanks, you know? And so anyway, any final thoughts? Good words.
No, this was so much fun though.
Oh yeah.
Good
any
talk,
final
ladies.
thoughts? Like, give it like a little like summary, just one, because, you know.
Should I tell my joke?
Oh yes, tell your joke. This is her.
Sometimes when I dream, I have very vivid dreams, and sometimes I come up with jokes in my dreams. Doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally. And a few weeks ago, I woke up and remembered that I came up with a joke in my dream, and it goes like this: knock, knock.
Who's there?
Amanda.
Amanda who?
I need Amanda to open this pickle jar for me. It's not good, but my subconscious came up with it, and for that I'm proud.
Which is impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Join me next week. My friend Zay's on the podcast. He shares about how the Lord kind of told him to hear him out a few different times in his life, and how they all got him to where he is today. It's a great episode, but until then, have a great week.